Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from YellowCat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. What was the most lucrative reason someone at your place of employment was let go? Part 8. This one isn't as bad as some of the others, but I was absolutely shocked by the whole thing. Someone came in and told me she really wanted to work at the store where I was an assistant manager. We weren't hiring at the time, but we talked for a while and she was very friendly, excited about the job, and knew a lot about the products we sold, so we didn't have to do much as training. I wrote down her name and phone number, and after seeing her resume and hearing my support for her, my boss hired her. During the first 2 to 3 days, you do nothing but sit and work on your computer. Then you hang out with me or the other assistant manager for another 2 to 3 shifts while we show you the ropes. Finally, you start working. She comes in for the first shift, does her first day's work, and then leaves. She calls in for her next shift and says she's sick and needs to write a paper. I tell her that's fine, and since she's not really on the floor, she can come in another day that week at any time. We give her a new date and time and tell her to get better. The day before her next shift, she calls again and says she can't come in because she has class at that time. I tell her she chose the day and time, and I ask her why she called 10 minutes early if she has class, and she should have known this a long time ago. She apologizes profusely and says she forgot that her class time had changed. We changed the date again. She calls this time and says she has way too much homework to come to work. I ask her if she wants to work or if she's just gonna keep putting this off. She keeps saying sorry and apologizing. She wants to work and has been really looking forward to starting at this store. She's sorry and promises it won't happen again. It's been 2 weeks and this girl has only come to 1 shift of her training. She should be working on the floor by now, but she still has things to do for day 2. When she calls again, she says, "I need to wash my jeans, so I can't come in." I'm shocked and need a moment to understand what she said before I can ask her what she meant. She let me know she needs to do laundry because she wore her dirty jeans yesterday. I beg her to come in and finish her training, telling her she doesn't need to wear jeans because she'll be alone at the computer for the 4 hours of her training shift. She can wear tights or even pajama pants. She says no, she doesn't want to wear her tights today because she just needs to wash her jeans. If she wants to come in instead, she asks what day. I tell her not to worry about it because she no longer works here. On the phone, she starts crying and pleading, but I just hang up on her. I work in retail sales and had an employee move to a mall kiosk where I work. This worker had a history of showing up to work drunk, but he was also having mental health problems because his father had died the year before. He was always drunk and often showed up to work drunk. He finally lost it at work and yelled at everyone. We were having a work meeting on some benches in the mall after the store closed. He was mad that he didn't think he was making enough money. He yelled at me about his effing commission because he was drunk. My boss told me to fire him in the system before the system was updated. Long story short, she didn't think we'd be able to fire him on his next available shift, but HR put a hold on everything and I had to act like I didn't know why his credentials weren't working for 3 days before I could officially fire him. 2 years later, I still work for the same company but in a different place. I ordered pizza for my team and he brought it to us. He was definitely drunk. For a long time, I worked at an Air Miles gas station. There's something you might not know about Air Miles. The store pays for them. This time it cost 15 cents per mile. For the first mile, you get $15. After that, every mile costs $10 and so on until you reach $300 a day. Every day at the end of the day, the POS machine is cashed out to show all the changes that were made. You could just enter the amount as a cash sale if someone paid cash, remember that, and that was it. They were starting to think less of this girl after she had worked there for a few months. Something just didn't look right. The cash register was never short, but something seemed off about it. To try to catch her, they started recording her whole shift, but they still hadn't been able to build a strong case. After one of my shifts, I cashed out and saw that I had earned $300 in air miles. This was pretty early in the day. It set off an alarm. I kept a copy of the tape from the end of the day because of this. The next day, nothing was wrong, but on the third day, it was there again with the same air miles number. At that point, I looked to see if there had been a 300 transaction or a bill payment on either of those days. Neither of those things took place. We also had a list of each regular customer's air miles numbers on hand, which I looked through for almost an hour to see if the number matched. When I was almost done, the owner came by and asked if I was having trouble keeping my balance. Not at all, I said. I was looking into it and showed them what I had. The owner took the information and looked through the old files. It turned out that this girl had been going through cash slides since almost the beginning. She was caught only because she was trying to get the most money. We found out about all the other things she had been stealing after she left. I called the manager when I saw her working at a grocery store. "Hey, I see that so-and-so works there. She used to work here." The manager says, "Yeah, she seems to be getting it quickly." I jumped in and said, "She used to work here for a reason. You get it?" There was silence for a short time. "Yeah, I do. Thank you." That's how I fired the same person from 2 different jobs. Share your horrible experiences/story from living in an HOA, condominium, or with jerk neighbors, Part 8. I lived in a pretty cool apartment that had a garage under it. My neighbor also had a garage next to mine. Because our garage faced one of the fences, there wasn't much space in front of the garages. Unlike other apartments in the complex, there wasn't much space for guests to park, and it was very hard to find a parking spot. 2 cars could legally park along the curb, and we still had enough room to back out of our garages. I lived with a wonderful Spanish-speaking family for 3 years. They were very kind and sometimes gave me tamales. Their older daughters would happily let my toddler play with them, even though they were really just keeping her busy. Then they left, and this terrible family moved in. Father, mother, son, and daughter, all teenagers. They were all mad at the world, and each had a car. Since each garage could only hold 1 car, this family always parked their 4 cars in the same way. There are 3 cars, 2 in the curb, 1 in the garage, and 1 behind the garage. They didn't really own the curb spots, they just got used to parking there. I had a boyfriend, and when he came over, he would try to park in a real space, but if they were all taken, he would park on the curb. They put a note on his windshield the first time this happened, telling him he couldn't park there because it was reserved and that he would be towed if it happened again. I told him that it was obviously a lie. Next time, my dad knocked late at night, but I didn't answer because we weren't dressed. A more angry note was written on his windshield. A few days later, the dad sees me outside and gets very mad at me for stealing his kids' parking spots. I told him in a calm voice that it wasn't assigned to anyone and that it was first come, first served. I then went inside while he kept arguing. It would only get worse over the next few weeks. When my boyfriend or a visiting friend parked in one of the spots, they would yell at me from outside, bang on my door, or ring my doorbell, which would sometimes wake my daughter up. They would also try to talk to me when I was outside. The people who work in the office agreed to talk to them and remind them that they don't own those areas. After that, I would wake up to trash right outside my apartment door. Whole bags, which are sometimes dumped out, or fast food bags, etc. It was against the rules of the apartment, and I would be fined if I didn't clean it up or stop it, but I had to show that it wasn't me. I asked the office for permission to put in a Ring doorbell. The next day, I caught the idiot on video coming up to my door with trash. He stomped off when he realized the new doorbell camera was watching. I think they lost it when they realized they could no longer bother me in that way. One of their cars is parked behind my garage when I leave for work the next morning. I rang their doorbell or knocked on their door, but they didn't answer. It seemed like either the dad or the mom worked from home, but they wouldn't answer. I waited for the office to open and told them to call the tow truck because they were in the way. Instead, someone from the office went to their apartment and told them they would have towed the car if they didn't move it. Sure enough, they got home and moved the effing car. After taking my 4-year-old daughter to work and coming home, the police show up. I haven't even been home for an hour. They look at me and my child, make faces, and ask me if I had a fight with my neighbors. Before I'm even done with my list of lies, these two guys start to look annoyed. When my neighbors called 911, they said I made threats against them and said I would damage their cars. They thought they were in danger. As soon as the police leave, I write down everything and send it to our property manager. I have no idea what happened after that, but the family stopped bothering me and the office told me they wouldn't be renewing their lease. I was really curious about whether they got in trouble with the police or if the apartment staff did anything about it. But all I know is that those effers left me alone for the last few months they were there, and a year later I bought a house. I'm sure they're all miserable wherever they are because those kinds of people are never happy. I hope they always have hangnails to get caught on things, effers. I work in real estate and see a lot of crazy people, but this was the worst. I worked with a Vietnamese real estate agent who gave me her listing because her neighbor was racist. The seller was Vietnamese and I'm white. When I had my first open house, my neighbor was still lying to every potential buyer about how bad the house was, putting water and mold in the basement on a 40-year-old roof. The night after the first OH, we had the house pre-inspected, trust a licensed inspector over a crazy neighbor, and gave the report to everyone who was interested in buying. Mold and signs of water in the basement were not found. The roof was thought to be about 7 to 8 years old. A teammate joined me for the second OH so that one of us could work the OH and do border patrol. Neighbor went on, I told them, I'm recording you, please don't bother us, we're just trying to do our job. Neighbor slapped the phone out of my hand and called my Vietnamese colleague a terrorist violating my rights as an American. The woman was yelling at the police that it was her right to free speech, that she was telling the truth when no one else would, and that they couldn't tell her she couldn't since she was on her own property. The seller got a restraining order against the neighbor, and we bought the house on the 3rd of the month, first after the restraining order was served. Interestingly, the buyer was also Vietnamese. Seller has moved into their new house and is pursuing legal charges against the neighbor that her actions resulted in $150,000 to $200,000 losses due to unsubstantiated statements she made that we have recorded regarding the condition of the house that directly contradict the licensed home inspector's report. Even though I'm glad there wasn't any more trouble, I was kind of looking forward to calling the police and having the neighbor arrested. The police said that the neighbor has been the subject of more than 150 complaints. Other people on the street thanked us for how professionally we handled the situation. Since then, I've sold 2 more homes on the street. I and my neighbor both made 2 unsuccessful requests to view financial records. 2 of the board members frequently insulted us, lied to us, and otherwise mistreated us in minutes and notices. So, several months after the 4th combined request, we filed a complaint with the FL Division of Condominiums, Homeowners Associations, Timeshares, and Mobile Homes. Ugh, what a mouthful. Just the division. Associations risk a $500 fine for each instance after 10 days without granting access to review the records. The division found in our favor and granted us a $2,000 award. However, the division lacks the power to compel payment from the association. Suing the association was necessary. In addition to giving us the $2,000, they also agreed to pay our attorney fees, pay us a premium based on our individual portion of the association dues, and agree to a list of maintenance items they had been ignoring. In essence, we received our money back, not zero, including dues to the association that defended our lawsuit, plus the $1,000 each that the DBPR ruling had awarded us. Our legal bills came to about $10,000. The association had to pay about $30,000 in total for 2 conceited board members who were incapable of expressing regret for not responding to requests on time. Try my best to assist. Note, the fact that Florida law mandated that we participate in non-binding mediation contributed to the high cost of our legal representation. Before mediation, there is absolutely no possibility of agreement. Florida law increased the total cost of legal representation to $30,000 for a $2,000 plus small attorney fees, small claims case. Even though I personally detest those two former board members, Florida law in this instance really let us down. I was made completely whole, and I'm still angry about it. I remain resentful, though, that the law demanded it go that far. If you want to watch the part 7, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments, too. Thanks for your support.